Let's talk cement monopolies and crony capitalism. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago, Rock had cement, which was the other option on the market for, I believe it was about 4 years they were here for already. They are off the market now. Rock hard is no more. At least for the moment, they are not. They are saying it is not a permanent thing. They are aiming for this just to be temporary. But for the temporary moment, they are not here. And why they are not here tells a very interesting story. And as you follow this story along, going back along the timeline in history, you see some very suspicious things. Things that make you ask questions about our government, about how our government has relationships with certain sectors in the business community, and the things that are being done that ostensibly, or at least on the surface value of it, are being said that they are doing this for our benefit, the benefit of the citizens. This is for the benefit of the country. Well, is it really? And can we really look into some of these things and see how exactly we are benefiting from this? And or is it just crony capitalism all over again? And crony capitalism is the thing that makes the free market look bad. If I were to put a nice definition in it for me, crony capitalism, the free market or capitalism as it is called, is when you allow the market to run freely. Each individual has the right to own the means of their own production, and they can trade their own products, their own services on a free market. How crony capitalism changes that is that the government, the politicians get involved, and through their thumbs pressing on the scale in different parts, they lean the system, lean this once free market to an unfree market, biasing it to their friends and associates, allowing them to have an unfair advantage in it. And really and truly, some people complain sometimes about the monopolies that are created in the free markets and in capitalism. And I find when I look through the history of free markets and capitalism, monopolies are not generally the natural way free markets function. If I am making a product and my product is selling wildly, it is having great success, what is very likely going to happen in short time once we are in a free market is someone else is going to figure out how to do the same thing, and they are going to bring themselves into competition with me. What happens sometimes is if you have a government or an entity that is in charge of the laws in an area, and they are on the side of one of these businesses, they could create a situation where the business is allowed to flourish so large for so long with so little competition around it that when it comes time now to try and break the monopoly, it becomes difficult. And then we could blame the capitalist system, that this is the fault of capitalism, while really it was the fault of people getting involved in the free market. And if we leave the free market to move, it would solve itself. Now, that is one side of the argument. There are other sides of the argument. If we have a society, if we have our government running the way it currently runs in Trinidad and Tobago, and we Trinis like all the benefits that our government gives, then the government needs to find ways to generate lots of resources. Personally, I am of the opinion that I would take the government giving me less stuff if it means the government needs to make less resources. So disappear with all those tariffs and all of that, and that way you don't need the excuse of needing to make money, because I'm fine. That's me personally, but I understand not everyone may share that opinion. Because I find when we leave it up to politicians to decide, okay, take some more money and you'll benefit us with this money, do something to benefit us with this money, the benefits rarely come our direction. They usually go in some other directions that don't exactly suit us. So, alright. If you haven't clicked that like button yet, please do click that like button. It does help. And drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about this. And if, to me, this topic is something that involves everyone. Cement is a really core part of building, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. Our building styles require cement from start to finish. It's a very high cement use kind of building. And the cement price fluctuation, if you're talking about building even something as simple as a small flat house with a 3 bedroom somewhere, simple family home, a change in cement price could affect that by thousands of dollars. And that is already compounded on the lumber prices increasing, and the steel prices increasing, and all the general prices around everything increasing. So to create a monopoly now where price increase cannot be buffered against with competition, makes for some difficult things. So drop that comment, tell me what you think, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do click that subscribe button. And let's see what's in the news. Rock Hard loses cement quota challenge against Trade Ministry. And this is from since last month. This is from July, the ending of July. On Wednesday, the 21st of July, Rock Hard Cement has lost its challenge against government's move to introduce a quota on imported cement and the proposal to increase import duties. On Tuesday, Justice Jacqueline Wilson dismissed the judicial review claim brought by Trinidad and Tobago-based Rock Hard Distributors RHTT and St. Lucia-based Rock Hard Distribution Limited against the Ministry of Trade and Industry over moves with the cement import, which the cement importer claims would cripple their operations. Newsday was told the judges written the right. I haven't seen the written reasons yet. This would be something I believe when I can find those written reasons, I'd go through that hopefully in another video. But I haven't seen the judges' written reasons yet. In its claim, Rock Hard sought to challenge the November 13th, 2020 decision of the ministry to introduce a quota from January 1st, only allowing 75,000 tons across the board for all distributors for the year. The other decision taken by the ministry, which is being challenged, is the proposal it sent to the Commission for Trade and Economic Development, quoted, for a further suspension of the common external tariff on other hydraulic cements and its intent to apply 50% rate of duty. Now, what that means is the quota, the Commission for Trade and Economic Development, would be something that would encompass the entirety of CARICOM. It's a Caribbean thing. And we have the common external tariff. So when we're importing outside of, external from the Caribbean, there's a common tariff. There's a common fee. That tax, that fee, that percentage is common across the Caribbean. Now, what our government sought to do was change that common tariff in Trinidad and Tobago. The tariff across the Caribbean, the common tariff is meant to be at 5%. And the first thing where they spoke about the argument about other hydraulic cements, that was because there was a previous court case where, because of the different types of cement, the different types of cement would have a different tariff. The Portland cement, that's the cement generally that TCL produces, that has a specific tariff. I believe the tariff was 35%. And the tariff on other hydraulic cement, and that's where Rock Hard was allowed to classify their cement, the tariff on that cement was 5%. So 35 to 5, you'd understand, is a large difference. And the government initially sought to classify Rock Hard under that Portland cement and charge them that 35%. They won that case in the Caribbean Court of Justice. That was a case that they won. So, seeing as Rock Hard won in the CCJ, they got their cement to be classified in the other hydraulic cement category. So they had that 5% tariff being charged on them. What the government subsequently did, we went to attempt to change the whole agreement for that external tariff and change it to 50%. And we did do that. And that was the case now that Rock Hard has lost. They were appealing the government's decision to change it to that 50% increase, and they were appealing the decision the government did to add in that 75,000 quota, because the 75,000 quota plus the price increase would really cripple the industry, making it pretty much impossible for them to function. Now, there's one side of it where you talk about the business side and the government and the crony capitalism biasing one company against the other. But then there's the other side where you could look at the customer side, the consumer side. What does this mean for the consumer? With it, with the letter, one of the affidavits that was sent with the court case when it was being filed, the owner of the rock hard distributors was quoted as saying within the first 6 to 12 months of entry of rock hard cement into the market, the price of cement dropped by about 35 to 40%, and that drop has been sustained over the past 4 years. Now, 40% is a significant drop, especially when you're talking about lower classes of people. That price difference is the difference between you being able to do an extension on your home this year and you having to put that off and wait for a credit union loan to do it the next year. That is a difference that could tell. And okay, you're talking about protectionism in terms of the businesses, but would we allow, just for the sake of protecting one business, allow them to monopolize a market and treat the customers with cruelty when it comes to pricing? Because if the price change could have been 40% lowered, does that mean that they were overcharging us by 40% all along? And if rock hard never came into the market, do you think that 40% decrease would have happened? Or would TCL still be charging us that 40% more and telling us that's the actual price you have to pay? That's real market value. And we can't say anything because there's only one cement on the market. And what you'd always notice with many of these things, the larger the companies, the mega companies really like this government help. So it's so ironic sometimes. Many of these very wealthy people sometimes speak negatively against the poorer class of people who need government help and need assistance and take assistance in different ways. But strangely enough, many of these big business owners love government assistance and government handouts way more than even the poorer classes of people. And it's unique to see sometimes when you're looking for, when you're hearing who is asking for protection, the level of people asking about this. In an interesting article, since early February this year, Emil Elias, he is the owner of NH International, which is one of the biggest contracting companies in Trinidad and Tobago. And he came out very vocally on the side of TCL. Emil Elias, TCL can fill gap left by rock hard cement shortfall. This was when rock hard was just speaking about they are going to have to leave the market. And Mr. Elias was saying that he doesn't see a problem with that. He likes the idea of them having to leave the market, and TCL has no problem filling this gap. One local contractor does not believe the increase in cement prices from one local supplier will have significant negative impacts on the construction sector. NH International Executive Chairman Emil Elias said the new prices of rock hard distributors limited pose no threats to the cement supply and TCL can fill the gaps. Now, it's very interesting, as I said, to note the level of people that say these things. He is the managing director for one of the biggest contracting companies in the country. The price of cement is inconsequential to him. It's inconsequential to him whether it's in the private capacity, because when it comes to him building whichever one of his many homes, I'm sure the price of cement doesn't matter to him. And when it comes to his contracts, that is again inconsequential, because most of his contracts will be coming from the government or from massive companies who wouldn't mind adding on another 100,000 in their contract for cement, or another 500,000 as the case may be. But if you're talking about a normal residential house builder, someone who's looking to build their home, they are not on the level of NH International to say this is nothing and TCL will fill. Of course TCL will fill the gap for him. Don't doubt that he might even have some stocks in TCL. You know how these things go many of the times. Elias said TCL had sufficient resources to supply demand for the commodity, which provided foreign exchange because of its reach in the region. And that's the next thing. TCL had a monopoly not just in Trinidad, but throughout the region. And I wouldn't doubt that Cemex, which is the Mexican company that presently owns TCL, I wouldn't doubt that when they were investing in TCL, looking to take it over, that was part of their interest in it. They noticed, wait, this company, these groups of companies have a monopoly in a market here, and they have a name of being the local supplier. So we could take over this monopoly and we would reign supreme. Well, too bad for them when Rockhard came, but too glad for them, I guess, when the government came to their rescue. But Elias wasn't the only one commenting on this. There were other contractors and they had a different way of saying it. But President of the Contractors Association, Glenn Mahabir Singh, said the sector cannot afford another price increase. In a WhatsApp message on Thursday afternoon, he said it had already been hit with price increases in steel and other increases posed serious risks. Mahabir Singh said, with the recent increase in steel prices, the industry cannot afford any further increases in the basic raw materials needed to fuel the country's economic revival through construction. We intend to initiate discussions with stakeholders to further ascertain their intentions for the short term. So when you're looking, especially if you look at the contractors diminishing in size coming down the road, I'm sure with progressing smallening of contractors, you would see each one of them would have a bigger problem with this cement price increase. So of course NH International would find that it doesn't matter. But would it matter to the smaller person? And now finally to the result of all of this. After all of these actions, to the ending result of it, Rockhard is closing up shop, at least for the moment. And personally, the government could see that their intention was to increase revenue and they were bleeding and hemorrhaging foreign exchange and all of that. I understand that, but when your actions seem so specifically, it's like the actions are cut out of a perfect puzzle piece, and that puzzle piece fits in perfectly into the slot of Rockhard closing up operations in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, if that is your intention, if that was your intention, don't lie and make it seem that the intention was really somehow to get more revenue, because we aren't going to get more revenue when they leave. Say your intention was for them to leave and then defend that position. I despise that amount of dishonesty, and that's my problem with it. Maybe there's an argument that could be made that Rockhard should have been pushed out of the market in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, make that argument. But when I see things like this, it seems to me that many people don't believe they could effectively even make that argument. And that's why they would cover that action with other misleading things, saying it's about revenue and saying it's about foreign exchange. That doesn't seem to add up to me. And if we're worried about revenue and foreign exchange, wouldn't some of that be leaving when we're giving that monopoly owned by a foreign-owned company? Isn't some of that foreign exchange and revenue flying out to Mexico and whoever those other stakeholders in CEMEX Limited would be? Rockhard to stop selling cement. This was from August the 18th. Embattled cement importer Rockhard Distributors Limited will be temporarily closing its doors on Friday due to the import duties and implemented restrictions in the domestic market for the commodity. He noted that with this temporary closure, 68 workers had to be placed on the breadline, along with 112 indirect workers who offload the shipments of cement weekly. Now, that's the other thing. Sometimes we could make it seem like, all right, this company was importing from another country, so the company that was manufacturing locally had the main impact on the local economy. Now, Rockhard would have had people locally employed. And if you're looking to balance this, as in terms of the Trinidad and the benefits of Trinidad, somehow, I'm sure this isn't really in my wheelhouse to try to do worse yet on the fly. But somehow you'd have to work out to see cumulatively the benefits that Trinidad would get for having competition in the market, that 40% decrease in prices, that benefit to the consumers in Trinidad, you'd have to weigh that. And then you'd have to weigh that with the amount of employees that Rockhard had. And then on TCL's side, to see if there's benefit to leaving this monopoly for TCL, you'd have to see how much benefit does Trinidad really get? How much tax revenue do we get? How many employees are employed there? What are their salary levels? And how much of the resources head out from Trinidad from this? And then balance this. And I'm not sure that it could be outrightly said, if you balance this, that the benefit is obvious in Trinidad's direction for having us return to a TCL monopoly. Ramhit vowed to continue to fight in order for the brand and product to stay in this country. He explained that TNT was the only country that they were experiencing the hike in import duties. Take, for instance, in Guyana, they actually know the benefits in having other brands of cements. In the Guyana government's last mid-year review budget, their import duties reduced from 15% to 5%. There are no restrictions in the other 7 countries we are in. Since January, when the restrictions were imposed, I still decided to keep all 68 employees. Even during the lockdown, to curb the spread of COVID, a stipend was given to the workers, the businessman said. Ramhit said this decision to send home the workers was a tough one because they all have families to see about. Now, that's the reality of the situation. So it's not one side is saving workers and employees and one side is hurting workers and employees. Either way, workers and employees may be harmed. So in this case, you tell me, is this a case of the government trying to save the country's economy and save us from bleeding that precious foreign exchange and save our precious local producers and manufacturers? Or is this a case of blatant crony capitalism setting us up for yet another monopoly and decreasing the options of the Trini consumer? Tell me in the comments, what do you think? I hope you enjoyed this or were informed at least, and I'll see you again tomorrow for the next.
And you feel the music rising with the time.